Okay, thank you, and thank you everyone for joining us today. What we're going to really talk about today is some various tools from LexisNexis that help us kind of manage the mountain of evidence and the mountain of information that we're currently faced with as part of a litigation. And today we're going to focus on some research tools, specifically the MedMail Navigator tool within Lexis Advanced Search Components, and we're going to focus on the Case Map suite, which includes products to help us do fact and case analysis, deposition and transcript management, and then has a presentation component to it called Sanction. So the focus of what we're going to talk about today is really this issue. Over the years, as we've really started looking at a lot of changes that have happened in discovery, not only electronic discovery and the mountains of data that are now being produced, we're also starting to see a real breakdown of traditional buckets and how we've usually viewed our evidence. Now, for example, I know historically in a lot of cases that I've been involved with, we may get our paper productions or our document productions, and we look at a document management tool or a document review tool to look at the paper that's coming in. Well, now that's becoming an inbox, or it's becoming electronic discovery that's coming in that we now have to manage. We would then take our transcripts that our court reporters would give us, and they would be looking at those in something like a deposition management tool or a transcript management tool like our TextMap product. Well, what's now happened along the way is the court reporters started sending you your document linked to your transcript. So if you had traditionally taken a hard copy home and maybe highlighted a hard copy of the transcript while you were preparing for a witness, that highlight or that annotation that you were putting on that transcript now references a document. And then that reference in that document, you may not want to look at it as part of an entire document. You might want to tag that reference to paragraph 2 of page 6 of a 12-page document. So now we're specifically drilling down straight into that document where historically we might have just tagged the entire document as a whole. And then we also have to introduce the research elements to it, because those issues that we might be tracking in a deposition, which might be tracking to a document, now have to be researched or looked at in terms of our case authorities and some other things that we're having to do. So now we're introducing the research element to track as part of that. And then we've got to bring in people and witnesses and fact chronologies and all this stuff. It's all now coming together. And so what we're really going to focus on today is the tools within LexisNexis that help us manage that element and that piece of it all coming together. So where we're going to start the demo is I'm going to start it in the Case Map suite, and then I'm going to kick it over to one of my colleagues named Manley, who's on the call, and she's going to take us through the MedMail research or the MedMail Navigator part of Lexis Advanced. Keep in mind that any of these research components that we're talking about can really apply to any research products that we have at Lexis. Autumn is just going to focus specifically on one of our newest tools, which is centered around medical malpractice cases. So to start with, the Case Map tool, as I'm showing you on the screen, is my tool that I really use as my central headquarters for everything that I'm managing in this case. And as I'm using it, I'm really using it from the outset of my litigation when I'm first sitting down to meet with my client. So we're going to focus on a medical malpractice case today. And in this case, for example, let's say that I'm representing the plaintiff in this case. So as I'm sitting down with that plaintiff, as he or she comes in and talks to me for that first time when we're working up the case, I want to get an idea of what happened in this case. So I start building my fact chronology. So you start to see I've added some facts in here for this case. For example, we discovered, and this plaintiff told me that on January 26th of 2006, he visited a primary care physician with a chronic cough, and no x-ray was taken. He, on the 15th of February 2006, he visited a primary care physician again with chest discomfort and wheezing, and still no x-ray was taken. So I can start to get an idea of what happened and what surrounded this case. I'm going to switch over to a persons area where I can start tracking the people in this case. So you start to see I started to add some things in here like our plaintiff, David Daniel Long. I started to add a person named Jim Smith, who is going to be the treating physician of some different things. I started to add Jennifer Long, who could be our nurse in this case, and then a physician or a testifying expert that's going to come into this case. So I started tracking people and some other things that can happen. Then the other thing I'm starting to work up from my initial meeting with my client are issues that I might have to either prove or defend throughout this case. And quickly during this first meeting, what I'm starting to realize is I'm going to have 3 primary things that I really have to focus on. A failure to diagnose the lung cancer. Did they meet the standard of care? And was there a misdiagnosis at the outset? And what you start to see in Case Map, as you saw the facts that I had in there, you start to see as I'm developing this case, the number of items that are starting to be linked to each of those issues. So for example, I have 5 facts that I've already flagged as failure to diagnose, and if I click on that button, it'll go ahead and spit me back and show me those 5 facts that I had. So this is my initial workup. This is my initial location where I'm starting to track the things like the key people, the key facts, and the key issues in my case. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Autumn Manley, because what's going to happen now is I'm going to have to start researching these topics and starting to look at supporting case law and starting to look at things within Lexis Advance and the MedMail Navigator tool on how I can continue to work up this case. So Autumn, I have passed the presentation over to you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Mike. Hi, everyone. So we're going to take a look at MedMail Navigator, as Mike said, as an example of one of the research tools at Lexis that you could garner facts and information, evidence, and incorporate that into CaseMap and other evidence organization tools. So here we are in Lexis Advanced MedMail Navigator. Let's say, as you saw from what Mike was showing us as far as facts that we've gathered so far, we're dealing with a lung cancer case. So we expand out this topic to find lung cancer halfway down. We'll click on that. Now we're at what we call the dashboard, and on the left-hand side we have several research tasks, or pods as we call them, that we can complete from this one screen. You can approach them in any order, but we're just going to go from top to bottom. So case value assessment. In here, the research assistant is going to ask you some questions. It's going to start off by selecting a jurisdiction. What happens is you input information as requested by the research assistant, and the facts of your case are matched to the facts of verdicts and settlements that have come before you on this topic in your jurisdiction. So you'll notice as I answer some sample questions here, the graph down below is changing and populating. You'll see green in the circles for a positive fact match between your case and the verdicts and settlements represented, and orange for a negative fact match. Now, at any point, you don't have to complete the questionnaire. You can always look at upcoming questions to see what will be asked. You can always go into previous answers to change your responses if necessary. But you can always click on these different circles, again, each one representing a verdict or settlement, and then link out to the verdict report. So let's say, for example, we're on the plaintiff side of this case. This verdict report is of interest to us. We link into that. We look through here and see all the information regarding this verdict. We know it was a defense verdict. It was a settlement resulting from that. It was dismissed with prejudice. You can see the case summary, the experts, what the demand was, all of that information here. So what you would do now is download that, and you would import it, as Mike will show us, into the other features. Okay, so very easily downloaded into your computer. If we go back to the dashboard here, the standard of care analysis pod is next. This is another tool that incorporates the research assistant. You'll be asked questions based on the medical positioning of your case, and you'll see on the right-hand side that you have links out to peer-reviewed journal information that you can download and sort of educate yourself further on the medical issues involved. So let's say that you answer several of these questions. You note that down below there's a checklist indicating, according to medical guidelines, whether there may have been a breach in the standard of care. And then you can always, again, look at upcoming questions, previous answers. You can come under the Show Details and launch into one of these articles if you'd like to read further. And these also can be downloaded and saved and then incorporated or uploaded into the tools that Mike is demonstrating for us. So again, here we have the download option. We can easily download that as a PDF or directly into CaseMap, which Mike will discuss. So you go back to the dashboard here. The legal analysis pod is one that will ask us questions again. We input the answers as they pertain to our case. And then on the right-hand side, you'll notice that we have some why is this important. So let's say that, California Civil Code Procedure Section 340.5 is of interest to us. We can link to that and then download it specifically and, again, upload that into the corresponding services that will help us manage all that evidence. Going back to the dashboard, we have research and expert witness, also part of this. So let's say that you are looking for an expert to testify in this case. You'll notice that there is a list down here. You can very easily come in and select the expert that's of interest to you, or you can type a name in this box. So let's say that you're looking for an expert named, last name is Hirsch, first name is Gregory. You can type that in here, press go, and then you'll see him right here. Looks like Gregory Lee Hirsch is the one we're looking for based on our jurisdiction. we can come in here and very easily scroll down to see different depositions or full text transcripts, affidavits, reports that he's authored in litigation. We can download those individually in full text format and then upload those also. We go back to the dashboard here. Research parties is the next pod available to us. Let's say, for example, as you saw with Mike, that your deceased patient, David Long, is someone that you want to research. You can run him through our public records database, and you can run these reports on anyone of interest in your case. Come in here, run the report, and essentially what you'll have is a compilation of public record information pulling from the largest database available, over 38 billion public records. It covers things from professional licenses, healthcare, provider and sanction information, assets, relatives, criminal record, a variety of things. And then you can upload it into your evidence management tools. The medical research database that we have here provides you with a couple different layers of information. So if we come under the results list here and click on lung cancer, we're going to get an overview of this material. So you'll see A to Z on this medical topic is available from you, everything from summary to background, diagnosis, the treatment. And what you can do is download this, as we've seen with everything else. Right here, just press the download button. Download it as a PDF, and it can be uploaded. You can track it along with all the other information you have with regard to your case. In addition to the overview, you also have medical illustrations available to you. So right here, we can click on View Medical Illustrations. And let's say, for example, we want to illustrate to the jury how inhaled smoke into the lungs affects the development of lung cancer. These series of illustrations will demonstrate that for you, each one being annotated to explain its position in the progression. So smoke is inhaled, the tar deposits, the carcinogens cause normal cells to mutate, and so forth. And let's say, for example, this one is of particular use to you. You can click on it to enlarge it. You are able to save these images as JPEGs. As you'll see, I have several in here. And then once again, you can upload it and use it as you would anything else. If we go back to the dashboard here, the last aspect of the medical research are the full text journal articles. We saw an example of this in the standard of care analysis pod, but if we click here on this link, search for selected topic in all medical content, it'll launch us into Lexis Advance under the Science tab, which is where we house over 1,600 full text journals from Elsevier Science, the world's leading provider of health and science information. On the left-hand side here, you can narrow it down to find articles based on keywords or terms that fit your needs. Or if you scroll down, you have a timeline feature, very important for standard of care analysis issues, right? You want something that's current and relevant, but not published post-injury. So let's say, for example, this is an article that's of interest to you. You click there. Once again, you have the original source image available to you. You can click in there, and you'll see it's exactly how it appeared in the original source publication, and you can download or print directly from here, once again uploading into the tools that Mike is speaking with us about. Back to the dashboard, that's your overview of MedMail Navigator with a variety of examples of information that Mike will now integrate into the other tools. And I'll throw it back to Mike with that being said, and he will take us through the rest.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so what we'll get into is I'm going to continue back into case map, and now what I'm going to walk through is how all the information that comes out of our research content from Lexis Advance and from the MedMail Navigator tool, how that gets worked in with the rest of our case. So the first thing I want to show you is down here under our shortcut areas into case map, we actually have a section for research. So if you're looking at an authority or a case law citation, and you found that in Lexis Advance, and you click that button that Autumn showed you to dump it down to your computer so it'll be in case map, this is what happens is we create all the links and all the information and the jurisdiction information surrounding this authority. And as I look at that, it'll bring the PDF of the case law research in here. What I will have the ability to do is I'm looking through this case law research is, let's say I do find a section that is going to be pertinent to what I'm trying to manage in this case. I'm going to flag it. I can make myself a note of what the pertinent information is or what information I need to glean out of this case law, and I'm going to go ahead and say let's create a new extract out of that. As I close down this case law PDF, what you end up finding is, so back to my research and my authorities. So my extracts from authorities, what it ends up doing then is it cites my authority name and it cites my extract text. So now I'm able to go ahead and go into that and take a look at how that stuff integrates with the rest of my case and integrates with the other things that I have as part of my analysis of what's going on. Everything that Autumn walked through for you on the document section now shows up in here under my document spreadsheet. So this is a various degree of a lot of different pieces of information. As we're talking about integrating all those historical buckets that have come in from our evidence management, this is not only pulling in my research content, but it's also pulling in document evidence that I might have collected, things that my client has produced to me, medical records, any piece of evidence that is going to be tracked or marked as this in this case. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick search through this case for the word tumor, and it's going to go ahead and search through my index for me and find my hits regarding where I'm going with my document spreadsheets and different things like that. And what will end up happening as it finds these hits and finds these records, it'll actually search and hit highlight the actual images for me as I come through, and I'm able to make my annotations and make the index things for me. The other thing that I have the ability to do is now, as you see, is my issues in my different documents. What I'm going to do is go ahead and launch a document and take a look at one. I'm going to look at a PDF file that I've got launched in here. My PDFs and my documents, as we talked about earlier, is we can take sections of these and go ahead and link it to different portions of my case or different issues and things that I'm trying to prove. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight a range of this text, and immediately it flags it that says, hey, you're going to go ahead and annotate this document. And I'm going to put this I'm going to put key evidence to ask expert witness. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new fact around this. And what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and add this to my fact chronology, which then will allow me to take sections of this and take pieces of this document. As I go back to my fact chronology, I've got that document now up here, and I can link that to issues, I can link it to people, I can link it to different things. The next component that's going to be introduced as part of our overall evidence management piece is going to be what's going to happen with our deposition transcripts. So I'm going to go ahead and click over here, and I'm going to bring up our other tool within the case map suite that we call TextMap. And this is our tool that we use to manage all the content that comes in from our depositions. And it's not only just the deposition at this point in time, as we talked about earlier. Linked exhibits that come in will be part of this case, will be part of our TextMap view, and also any videotape deposition testimony will be part of this view. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to show you my word search. Already on this transcript, as I've got different areas flagged throughout this transcript, and you see as I click through different issues, it's going to show notations and different things that I've deemed as important to me. If I want to see what those are, I can go ahead and look at that annotation. It'll show me what I've selected and what I flagged and how I've gone about annotating this or making a note for myself. If I find a new section of my transcript, maybe I'm looking through my word wheel or my word index, and I'm going to scroll down and just find a word. Let's say that the word code is going to become an important piece, and it's going to take me over to this deposition. And you'll see I've got that area flagged, but I'm going to go ahead and flag a little bit more around it, and I'm going to annotate this in TextMap. I'm also going to go ahead and say we're going to link it to an issue that we have as part of our case, and I'm going to go ahead and send this all into CaseMap as part of my fact chronology. So now it'll take deposition excerpts, deposition testimony, issues that I'm also flagging my deposition, and it'll include them as part of my fact chronology and as part of the other things that I'm working up as part of CaseMap. So the last piece that I'm going to show you within the CaseMap product, before we take all this information that we've collected and we go step off into the courtroom or step off into the arbitration room or step off into a mediation to actually present the elements of this case, is I'm going to show you how we can create a chronology or a timeline out of this. So let's say we're going to go in and do a big argument today, and one of the things that we're going to discuss is we need to discuss things that have to do with our failure to diagnose this case. What I'm going to do in my fact chronology sheet where I am back in CaseMap is I'm going to right-click on it, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to filter by this selection. So what that's going to do is that's going to trim down my fact chronology to just the facts that I have related to my failure to diagnose. And I'm going to go ahead and right-click on these, and I'm going to send them to our time map tool. And what you'll see happens is it takes that information and it creates a very simple timeline for me that I can now use to either print out, blow up, put into PowerPoint, or what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to add it into our Sanction tool, which is our presentation tool to take this evidence and take it to that step. So that's what happens with my timeline tool. And all this information is now pulled together as I'm going to quickly jump into our sanction tool, and I'm going to show you what it will look like from a courtroom presentation standpoint or from some kind of presentation standpoint that you hit at the end of your case. So this screen right now that we're in is I'm actually just in a black screen, and the reason why the screen went black is because if I'm presenting this in a courtroom and I'm not showing any evidence to a jury or a judge, I don't want anything on the screen to distract them. What I have done is I've created a folder down here where I've added different pieces of information. So the first thing I'm going to bring up and show you is I'm going to show you what a document or a medical record would look like in this case. So if we fast forward to all that evidence that we worked up and we're now in presenting and we've got the expert witness on the stand that we're cross-examining from the defense about our key issues of failure to diagnose and about whether they met the standard of care, I can go into the medical records. And I can say, Mr. Expert, I'm going to focus your attention on the top portion of this document. So quickly, I'm just going to draw a box and zoom in and highlight. And in particular, I want you to look at this information and your handwritten notes of the doctor in this section. So very quickly, on the fly, at a moment's notice, I'm able to take everybody in the courtroom, including the witness and including the jurors, and focus them exactly on the location of this document that I want them to talk about. Anytime I hit the escape key, it's going to clear out what I'm showing. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up my next item, which is the photo that Autumn had showed you before about one of the illustrations that we pulled off of the MedMail Navigator tool. So just like everything else is on the fly, maybe we want to focus everybody's attention really on this call-out box a little bit more. So I'm going to draw a circle on the screen. I also have the ability to zoom in, annotate, draw circles, and do other different things on color photos, just like I'm able to do on documents. And just like before, I'm going to hit the escape key, and I'm going to bring up a video segment, which I will pause right away because sometimes over the web the video takes a little bit of time to come up on the screen. But what you'll get the idea, if this is my testifying expert and he has now given me an answer that was contrary to his deposition that I flagged in TextMap for pieces that I was going to talk to him about, I can quickly and easily bring up the videotape deposition of this expert witness and show it for impeachment purposes on the fly in the courtroom while I'm examining him in real time. I can also use this video element obviously to show people by video in lieu of calling them live, but you also have the option here to show the transcript underneath it along with the video if you so choose. And the last little piece I'm going to show you from the courtroom presentation mode is I'm going to show you that timeline sample. So here's a larger version of that timeline that I created, but just like before, is once all those facts and once all those issues are thrown into the chronology, I can bring them up in this courtroom presentation in our Sanction product and show it along with my documents, along with my photos, along with my video testimony. Basically, Sanction will let me bring in every piece of evidence that I have deemed important through this process that I have identified in CaseMap, that I have researched in MedMail Navigator, that I have flagged in TextMap, that I've made a chronology. It all feeds into Sanction to do the presentation to help me tie up and help me present this case in the most effective manner. Autumn and I both really appreciate your time, and we hope that these tools will be helpful for your practice as you move forward.